Welcome back. I'm Kaylee with Freely Blooming with Kaylee, and something I'm really passionate about, which there's a lot of things I'm really passionate about, clearly. Something I did want to share about was cooking with cast iron and just the whole entire topic of cooking with healthy cookware. And you may be thinking, I didn't know there was a thing as healthy cookware, and I really wanted to make it clear that whatever choices you've been making or making in the past, choices that I've made in the past, it's perfectly fine. When you don't know something, you don't know something. But once you know better, you do better. And from here on out, I know for me, with the research that I have done and the things that I have seen and read, I know I want to be cooking my good, whole, healthy foods with a cookware that's not going to negate what I'm trying to feed my family. First, we're gonna talk about the reasons why it's important to think about our cookware and why it does make a difference. And then I'm going to talk about my top choices for healthy cookware. Then I'm going to be talking about the care of those healthy cookware options, because a lot of people, it makes them really nervous to care for the options that I have chosen. And I promise it's not scary. I promise it's easier than you think. It just takes a little bit more time and a little bit of patience, like most things. Let's talk a little bit about why we need to really be looking at our cookware and why it makes a difference. So everyone knows when Teflon came out. I remember when I was younger, when Teflon came out and when non-stick cookware came out, everybody thought it was the bee's knees. This is amazing. It's completely changing the way we cook. It's so easy to clean. Your food slides right off the plate. So there is a chemical. It's a really long word. I'm not even going to begin to try to pronounce it, but it's the abbreviation is PTFE, which is known as Teflon. And there's also a whole entire family of chemicals included in that PTFE group. So basically this coating at at high temperatures, the chemicals actually release toxic fumes. And there's actually a thing called Teflon Flu, which is super crazy to me, that you want to be cooking with something that can give you something called the Teflon Flu. So it basically is a toxic fume that gives you flu-like symptoms, which is super crazy to me. And studies have shown that those dangerous temperatures can be reached when the pan is on the stove in as little as 2 minutes. So if you're thinking, who cooks less than 2 minutes in a pan, right? So if it's not done right and if it's not done well, that coating on those pans can become toxic. So it can leach into your food. And that's just something I think we all have to really think about is, myself, I go to great lengths at sourcing organic food and feeding my family whole foods. Do I really want to be sticking the food that I'm sometimes spending a little bit more money on, especially my grass-fed and pastured meats? Do I really want them in a pan that is going to be putting toxic chemicals into my food, into the air? I don't really know. Going back to this chemical family that PTFE is included in has also been linked to elevated cholesterol, thyroid issues, liver inflammation, and a weakened immune system. And it's also a known carcinogen. Do you know what a carcinogen is? It's something that causes cancer. So these things are known to be, they have been admitted that these chemicals can cause cancer. And I'm sorry, but that's not something I really want to be involved in. But what's great is that we have other options. These other options for some reason tend to scare people, which is very, very interesting to me because I don't feel like I have a hard time at all cooking with the cookware that I have chosen. So there's a couple different options for you as far as healthy cookware. Now, my absolute favorite, obviously, being cast iron. I'm sure you've seen it in my kitchen before. I absolutely love cast iron. It's been around for ages. And there's so many other benefits to cast iron. You just have to use it in a kind of a little bit of a specific way. There's a small learning curve. It's not huge, it's just a small learning curve. You're gonna use it a little bit differently than, say, your non-stick cookware. You can also use Stoneware. I know Pampered Chef kind of made Stoneware pretty popular. Now you can find it from other brands. I love the Stoneware baking sheets. It always seemed to work really well for me. It's something that as it goes on, it gets better and better and better the more you cook with it. Another option is stainless steel. Now, this is what I've cooked with since I got married. I used to have some other pans that had some nonstick coatings involved, and I did get rid of those once I learned that there were dangerous aspects to using those. So stainless steel is something that I have used now for 15 years. I haven't had any problem using them. Anytime I get to a point of using stainless steel and it's not working well, it's because of my own error, not necessarily the stainless steel. And you can also use silicone. Now, you know how things go. A lot of times something proven to be safe or that people think is safe, back when, you can remember doctors used to recommend cigarettes to pregnant women because they said it was perfectly fine and actually healthy for you. Now, things always come around, and there are things that used to be thought of as healthy that may not be healthy anymore. And I think that's something that I always have to look into. I'm always researching and looking at different opinions and different research on things as science catches up, however you want to say it. But silicone is kind of one of those things. I want to believe that it truly is safe. Sometimes I go back and forth on, do I want a lot of silicone in my house? I think it is safe. It's not really for cookware, more for baking reasons, but I do love my silicone muffin cups, and I will continue to use those, and hopefully nothing ever comes out saying how bad silicone was for us this whole entire time, but we can do the best we can with the information that we have right now. Obviously, with cast iron being my absolute favorite, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about why cast iron is awesome and how to use it and the care, show you a little bit of cooking, as I go along. A few facts to using cast iron. So cast iron is so tough. There's a reason why we can go to antique stores and garage sales and find cast iron that's been passed down from generation to generation because it's almost indestructible, and there's not a whole lot you can do that will absolutely completely destroy cast iron. You think you find a piece of cast iron, it's completely covered in rust, that is salvageable. Those things are so tough, and you're gonna have them basically forever and potentially pass them on to your kids, and either they sell them or they use them themselves, but they're gonna last forever. So it's really economical because you're not going to have to replace them pretty much ever. Once a cast iron is hot, it stays hot. So it's really good for things like searing meats and different things where you really need the pan to be holding its temperature. Another benefit is every time you cook in your cast iron pan, it just keeps getting better and better. You've heard you need to season your cast iron skillet. I will say that I've had my cast iron for years, over 10 years, and I've never re-seasoned it. Because of the way I take care of it, I've never actually had to re-season my cast iron. Another interesting thing about cast iron is during the cooking process, a small amount of iron is released into your food. And that's actually a really good thing. A lot of people are iron deficient because of diets and different things. And so it's actually good to have another boost of iron into your diet just from cooking in a cast iron skillet. Now, a few tips and tricks to using cast iron. I'm gonna show you here. So you say, I'm gonna go look at this brand new cast iron skillet and I see that it's $75. How are you saying that's economical? And I will absolutely tell you it is economical because, like I said, it'll last you forever. I got this small one. If you can find them at garage sales. Now, antique stores will have a higher price. You're gonna buy a used one, probably about the same price as you can get a new one. Although, I would actually prefer to go with that used one, the one that's been used for 50 years rather than a brand new one anyway. But I do have this small one. It's just a small skillet. And you can hold it in my hand. I have had this one for many years. I found at a garage sale for about $5. So it may take a little bit of time in looking around, but people do get rid of these on occasion. So this is my big one. This is the one, I did buy this one new. It is a Lodge, and I will link one down for you in the description below. I do like this brand. They have many sizes and many different shapes. I know I've even seen cast iron muffin tins or muffin pans, which really interests me, and I think I really want to invest in one someday because we do make a lot of muffins. And maybe someday, if we ever find out silicone isn't as good for you as they thought, then I won't have to use my silicone little baking cups. But I have used and loved my cast iron pan, like I said, for over 10 years. every once in a while, if you get any pieces that do end up getting stuck, all you have to do is clean it really, really well with really hot water. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the process and I'm gonna show you. I was cooking some French toast the other morning and I recorded a little bit to show you how I heat it up and add some cooking oil or cooking fat, whatever you like to use. Definitely, that is an important part of the process. So the biggest thing I can tell you about cast iron is always when you first get it, definitely season it. And I can show you how to season it, I can tell you, but there's so many different ways and different things. People have different opinions on how to season a cast iron skillet, but all you have to do, hop on Pinterest, Google it. There's so many other people who have showed exactly how you can season a cast iron skillet. It's not hard. Basically involves putting oil in a pan and sticking it in your oven for a period of time and letting that oil really cook into the cast iron skillet. And that's going to create a non-stick surface. So the first thing you need to do is before cooking, just turn on your pan. I've literally seen people said, I don't have time to preheat my skillet. And I just don't know what to say to that, because if you have time to literally do this and set this down and turn a knob, you have time to preheat your skillet. Now you don't typically you're not taking food straight from unless you're reheating something, you're not just taking food out and dumping it in right away. You're gonna be prepping in some sort of way. While you prep your food, why not go ahead and turn the heat on very low and slowly heat up your cast iron skillet. That's gonna be super, super important. Slowly heat up your cast iron skillet before you cook in it every single time. And that is going to help create that nonstick surface a little bit easier. Even though I do have a really great finish and a really great surface on mine, I still use some type of cooking oil or cooking fat. I like tallow, pig lard. I am not afraid of good healthy fats from animals, grass-fed butter, avocado oil, or olive oil, whatever healthy fat you would like to use. Just please don't use vegetable oil. Beg you, please don't use vegetable oil. That's what I'm still going to put that in my pan. Now, a lot of times, say if I'm making pancakes or French toast, like I'm gonna show you, sometimes I'll have to, butter up that skillet one time for that very first pancake, and then after that, or for a piece of French toast or whatever it is, and after that, I won't have to do it again because it's kind of on the surface already and it doesn't really just disappear or go away. So all I did to get this started to cook in, I'm doing tacos, but before I put in the oil, I turned the heat on low and for at least 5 minutes. A lot of people say 10 minutes, but if you slowly heat up your cast iron for about 5 to 10 minutes, it will have more of a non-stick feel to it. Now, obviously, I always cook with cooking oil. I prefer to use ghee or avocado oil. Those are my choice for health reasons, but you can see how, some of my stuff is burning just because it's getting hot, but it really is kind of a non-stick surface if you use it like you're supposed to, and just take that little bit of extra time to preheat your pan before putting any oil or any food in it. So that's your second tip. Use a cooking oil or cooking fat. And then the thing I want to tell you the absolute most is never, 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 say it again, never use soap on your cast iron skillet. If you have a cast iron skillet and you are washing it every single time with soap and you're thinking, I hate cast iron, this does not work for me, it may be the soap that you're using. Now, I don't use soap because what soap does is degreases and pulls grease off of whatever you had cooked in. What a cast iron needs the most to work effectively is kind of like a layer of grease, a layer of oil on the surface to make it work really well. Now, if you're going and washing that off every single time, you're basically taking off the seasoning of your skillet. So use really, really hot water, you stick it in your sink, hot water, let it rinse off. I actually use a scraper. Let's see if I can find one right here. Now, again, those Pampered Chef Stonewares, they do come with these little plastic scrapers, I guess you wanna call it, I don't really know. I guess you could use multiple different things for this. I take this, if there's anything stuck on there at all, if I just cook some meat or blacken something on the surface and it's still pretty stuck, I will just take this, and as it's under really hot water, I'll just scrape it right off. And on occasion, very rare occasions, I will still have something stuck on that I can't get off. I will pull it out of the water, completely dry it. It's my other tip. Completely dry your cast iron. Never soak it, because soaking pulls the grease and the oil out of it again. And never let water sit on it, because that's when you're going to create rust. You don't want your cast iron to be rusted. And so if that does happen, you can come back from that. It's perfectly fine. You can, get that off and re-season it. But everybody asks if I have special tools to, wash my cast iron. I've seen even these little metal these metal rings that are linked up, like almost like scouring pads, but they're metal rings. I've honestly never used one in 10 years, and I've never had any problem with my cast iron working like I really need it to. So don't leave water in your cast iron at all, ever. As soon as you're done washing it, or if you feel like you've done as much as you can as far as getting things unstuck, go ahead and dry it. And after it's completely dry, if you still have some bits stuck onto your pan, you're gonna take some bacon grease. Yes, bacon grease or lard or any type of oil. I guess you could use avocado or olive oil, but I don't technically really want to use that for my pan. I honestly just keep a small amount in a jar or, a cup or whatever it is that you would like. And I keep bacon grease reserves, and I'll dip my hand in it and I will just rub straight on. I will rub the surface with bacon grease every single time I cook with my pan. And I've cleaned it and dried it, I will rub a small layer of bacon grease. So, and what it does is it will soak in just a little bit. A little bit goes a really long way, a light coating. And then by the time I need to use it again, it's actually seeped into the cast iron and creates this perfect seasoned environment in which it's going to have a really good nonstick surface. Now, not every time, but I can, most people are like, eggs, oh my goodness, my eggs stick so bad on my cast iron. I'm like, it's just not seasoned enough, or you're washing your seasoning off, or, just all those things. Just those steps that I have taken has really kept my cast iron in really good shape, and it works so well. As long as I preheat my skillet and I use a little bit of oil or butter, my eggs don't stick at all, and it actually works really well. And that's a testament to how well your cast iron works. If eggs don't stick, then your cast iron's working really well. Now, if you still have those stuck on pieces, you can rub bacon grease over those stuck on pieces, wait and let the fat seep into the pan, and you can go back later before you cook with it again, and you can just pick those pieces right off. They will scrape right off, they will wash right off, they'll wipe right off, whatever you want to do with it, but it will come right off. It's like the oils will release whatever's stuck on there really quickly if you let it sit on there. The other thing I do use in my kitchen is my stainless steel pans. Again, like I said, I've used these for a really long time, and I'm sorry, I'm just not a cook that is going to spend a whole lot of time using, I don't know, whatever you want to use. I don't really want to use chemicals or anything like that on my stainless steel cookware or any cookware at all. And so I know there are things you could probably use. There's some natural mixtures you could mix up to make your pans all pretty, but I just don't care. I use my pans and I'm comfortable with them looking like this. Nothing is stuck on this at all. Kind of just gets that, patina, if you want to say that. This is what 15 years of usage on a stainless steel pot looks like. I don't have time to sit and scrub this and make this sparkly and perfect and clean, and that's perfectly fine with me. I know it's not dirty. Now, stainless steel is a little bit different, but you're going to do the same thing. You're going to heat it up on low. Slowly heat up your pan first, use a good cooking oil, and it's going to create a really great nonstick surface for you. It may not always look perfect, which I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in this right here, because I know this pan is loved and it's well used. This has made many meals, but again, 15 years, this thing is going steady. All my pots and pans are stainless steel. That's what I will continue to use. It's what I got. Luckily, that's what I got as my wedding gift, was a set of stainless steel pots and pans. And 15 years later, that's what I'm still using. I don't have just a ton of cast iron. Now, I do want to show you something that's super special to me, and I absolutely love it. Now, if you've watched any of my bread making videos, I do talk about using a cast iron Dutch oven in the oven to make artisan loaves. Now I saw a sourdough sandwich bread recipe. I put those in glass baking dishes. Now glass is another option for you, but I do love this cast iron Dutch oven. So what's really cool, so you know how I talked about how cast iron is, you know, economic, and it is a good way to spend your money because it's going to last years and years and years. My grandmother handed down this Dutch oven to me in the last couple of months, and I was so excited to get it. She said, so my grandmother is almost 80 years old, and this Dutch oven, she told me, came from her mother. And now if you do some math, this thing right here is at least 120, if not 150 years old. She said it may have even been passed down from her grandmother. And if that was true, then this thing is definitely over 150 years old. I was joking with a friend today that it literally looks like it was made by a blacksmith. You can see some of the imperfections in it, and I absolutely love that. And I think this is something that's really cool. I could hand this down to my children, and hopefully they will use it someday. But those are the pieces of cast iron I have, and those are what I normally almost always use. You don't need a whole lot. Maybe you need a few skillets, maybe you need a Dutch oven. I would love to have a few other pieces, and slowly I will find some used pieces. I would prefer to buy used pieces if I can find them. But cast iron is becoming even more popular now, and they are a little bit harder to come by these days. Those are the ins and outs of cast iron care. If you do those things, no soap, heat it up, use your favorite cooking oil or fat, don't ever leave water on it, you're going to have a good cast iron skillet. Again, if you're buying from brand new, you do need to season it. Just Google, figure out how to season it really well for your first go around. But the longer you use it, the better it's going to work. So don't give up. If the first couple of weeks or first couple of times you use your cast iron, it doesn't work as perfectly as you want it to. Another option I didn't even talk about or think about as far as like baking and different things is oven safe glassware. I do have quite a bit of oven safe glassware as far as baking goes, and I do love that option. So I hope this was beneficial, and I hope you learned a little bit more about taking care of your cast iron and about the healthy cookware options that you do have. Remember, know better, do better. It doesn't mean we have guilt or worried about anything we did in the past, but I hope I helped you learn a little bit more about healthy ways to cook in your kitchen. Please leave a comment if you have any more questions about using cast iron or stainless steel. I will link everything that I use down in the description below. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.